Welcome to Heart Power with Saskia, the podcast where we explore what it means to be truly powerful from the inside out.
I know, me too.
Hello and welcome everyone. I'm very excited to have my first very special guest, Ulrike Selleck. So she's the author of Sing Yourself Well in 7 Seconds, a contemporary artist, a opera singer, and a cat enthusiast. So welcome, Ulrike. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Saskia. It's such a joy being with you, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, so nice. So I'm really excited to uh, talk with you about the power of song today. And the power of singing, which is something that you um, are very good at and have, developed some beautiful processes with. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background. When did you first start singing?
Oh, yes, as a child. Yep, I am a fourth generation classical singer. So as a child, there were house concerts, and I was in the choir, and I was a piano protege, and my mother was an opera singer, and a teacher, music teacher, voice teacher, choir director, orchestra conductor. So there really wasn't any way out. Um, so being a child that is nurtured in that environment is quite special. And of course, I had no idea. I didn't realize that at all. I was even in the presence of Karl Orff, who composed the Carmina Burana. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was a 20th century composer. And I performed under him in one specific performance in Munich on the stage when I was a little girl, playing xylophones and hopping around the stage. So I really was in this cocoon of culture. My parents both were fledglings. No, what do you say? They fled East Germany. Refugees. Were they refugees? Well, you know what I mean. Just before the wall was built between East and West, they fled. They pretended they were going to see their grandma in the hospital in Berlin and went with some flowers and never came back, left everything behind. They started from scratch. My mother had graduated and she had a degree, but it wasn't accepted in the West, so she had to start
Mm-hmm.
again, with the exam. My father was only quote unquote, he loved it, but he was a carpenter. He was a simpler man, and she really wanted him to do an academic study because he loved physics. He was really good at technical things. So she basically was the breadwinner on the day that the Zurich Opera invited her to be an opera singer at their opera. The same day she got a letter from a school, a gymnasium, a grammar school in Germany, to be a full-time music teacher. Because she was pregnant with me, she decided for that. So she was the breadwinner for several years, getting 325 marks a month, with me as a little infant working, and my father going in to become a physicist. So I grew up in this, we can do it kind of family. And they wanted to give me everything they didn't have. They were kids during the war. And so I was in this cocoon, but I felt, because I was an introvert, because I was a quiet, shy, I know you can't tell now because I talk all the time, but I was really a quiet, shy, inward being. All I wanted to do is
Yeah.
sit in the meadow and watch the butterflies and have the spiders crawl over my hand and just be in awe with being. But in that family
Yeah.
where people are doers and achievers and musicians, and you have to perform and you have to please these people, and that, I was basically breathless for the first 18 years of my life. And
Oh,
so you're asking when I became a singer, or when I started singing. It was as a child, but I rejected it all completely.
so you obviously felt pressured to perform in a sense because there was so much. Well, that if your mother was singing and there was all of this going on around you, you felt that that was something, a path that you should follow, or
It wasn't really a matter of should. I had no distance. You know how we are as children. We just live the part that is scripted for us by society, by parents, by
mm,
the people
Mm.
around us, by our fellow schoolmates. We're in it. We have no awareness. It opens up later. And with me, I was like 60 something when it finally, oh, gee, I don't have to do what other people tell me to do. I actually have free will. Whoa, too cool. I'm
Yeah,
exaggerating slightly
wow.
just because I'm dramatic, but but really that's what it was, and I thought something was wrong with me because everybody else went to parties and was interacting, and I just wanted to be home with my turtle and my cat and read books all day. And of course you couldn't do that. At
Oh,
some point I had 14 extracurricular activities just because my mother wanted to give me everything that she didn't have, and I love her for it now. But oh my god, back then it was really hard, really hard. And school in Germany, you know what it's like, it's really difficult. So to do so many things aside from that was very hard. So I withdrew more and more, and I stopped school at 18. I went into the secretariat, into the office, administrator's office, and I said, I'm quitting on the day I turned 18. I couldn't take it anymore. And then I, of course, enrolled in the Language Institute, where I did 5 languages all at once. And I got completely like, oh my God, it was again too much. And at 20, finally, God took mercy. And I had a boyfriend who said he would break up with me if I didn't learn TM, Transcendental Meditation. And I didn't want him to break up. So I thought, all right, I'll do it. And then I showed up to his
that's a
house,
pretty
and he
harsh
stood in front of
proposition.
a
Yeah.
picture.
You
Yes,
felt
it was
pushed
so
to.
important to him. He was so behind
Mm.
it that that's what he said. And so I showed up with my handkerchief and my fruit and my flowers. I didn't know what to expect. And he stood there in front of the picture of a bearded dude, and he waved incense around. I thought, I got really scared because remember, my parents grew up in the war. They told me never ever follow a guru or a leader or anything. So here I was, this little German girl, just barely 20 years old, and this guy was just doing all this weird stuff. And so I internally said, okay, as soon as he's done, I'm out of here. I don't even care if I don't see him anymore. And then I
Mm.
pretended to follow. I sat down, I closed my eyes, and I followed the instructions, very simple instructions. And in 15 seconds, Saskia, in 15 seconds, tears were streaming down
Mm.
my cheeks. I was home. I was
Oh,
in a place that I've been longing to be all my childhood, that nobody could present to me or teach me how to get to the inside. In 15 seconds, I was home. Transcendental meditation, I've done it ever
wow.
since, twice a day for 4 years now. And I don't have any intention of ever stopping just because it got me home. It finally balanced out all the outward expectations and the shy child and everything. It came into balance,
Mm.
except
Mm.
now to continue with the second part of your question. I went so far inward, only inward, went to the ashram, was around Maharishi, which was heaven. Um, all kinds of inward things, and studied psychology and studied Vedic science and all that stuff, and still didn't speak up, still didn't do anything in the relative that was expressive. So when I was 32, I had just
Uh-huh.
become a meditation teacher, transcendental meditation teacher. At 32, I
Mm.
suddenly grew thyroid cancer. And
Wow.
I stood in Deepak Chopra's office, and he said, "You know why you got this, right?"
Mm.
And I said, "No, I have no idea," but I was scared. I was crying. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know if my life was going to end. He said, I've known you for many years." He had given me several of his techniques back then. He came to campus where I was living many, many years in a row when he was still with Maharshi Yogi. And he said, "I've known you for many years, and you have never spoken up. You've never said no. You've never expressed yourself. If you want to heal this, you
Mm.
have to learn to sing, and you have to learn to express yourself." And Deepak Chopra basically saved my life.
Wow. Wow. So was this when you were based in Germany?
That was here in America. I had moved with Marishi in '83 to America, so I've
Okay.
been here now for 40 years.
So how old were you when you moved, just to get an idea of the timeline?
We moved here '83, so I was 24.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm 64 now. We moved here with Marishi. I was in Salisbury from 21 until 24. And when I was 24, we moved to America with him. We were traveling a
Uh-huh.
lot with Marishi because I was the
I
Ayurvedic cook
see.
for some of the ladies in Europe. And I think I told you the story that within
Yeah,
Europe,
yeah.
we flew to different countries, and we just went up and down and up and down. And then suddenly one day we were summoned again. We were traveling again. And then the plane kept going up and up and up and up. And after an hour of flying, the pilot said, Jay Gurdjieff Maharshi and everybody else in a few hours will be landing in Toronto, Canada. And so from Canada, we went
Wow.
to Washington, D.C., and then we ended up here in where I've been living ever since.
What an adventure.
But basically, Deepak Chopra was the one who said you have to do 200% of life.
Mm,
Maharshi always said that. Maharshi never said only
mm,
meditate. He always said 200% of life, meditate and act. And I was doing a lot of going inward and not expressing myself. I didn't know how,
mm, mm.
because you and I know when we're shy German girls, we don't speak up. We don't assert ourselves. We don't even know how to
Yeah.
express otherwise, other than the pathways that were laid out for us by parents or by society.
There's a bit of a good girl complex, isn't there, with that?
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
And it happens to, I think, to in men and women, there is just generally a good boy, good girl complex. You're either good or you're bad, in our societies. One of the layers that prevents us from fully being our authentic selves, one of the layers that needs to be peeled back, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and stepping into our own power instead of always swimming in the power currents of somebody else. And that was, I think, even more unconsciously prevalent in my generation because you're about, what, 20 years younger than me or even more. But I can see even in your generation, it's still something that we're consciously having to address, like almost every day in every situation, to just go to the self. And that's what I'm so passionate about teaching now with my Seeing Yourself Well and with the 7 seconds to now, that the only way we can ever overcome any kind of boundaries that we had in the past, that we put up ourselves, that society put, age old, the only way is to step into the now, straight down
Yes.
into the now, and
Yes.
make as
Yeah.
if decisions from a blank slate. Okay. We
Yes.
can spend
Yes.
so much time in psychotherapy and, dealing with past things and worrying about the future and all this. And what are we not doing? We're not plonking ourselves in the now. And the now is full of possibilities. Not only that, it's the only thing that ever exists.
It is. It's so true. Being in the now is everything. And, then we are able to disconnect from worry about the future. We're able to let go of, any sort of past things. We can be fully, the more we can be in the now, the more we can be in our power. That's it is only ever now. So that
Yeah,
is where the
exactly.
power happens. That's where we can make choices and do everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So you then moved over there, and you had this cancer, and you then made the choice to start singing and expressing yourself more. Was that like a turning point for you?
Yeah, that was the most, other than learning to TM, that first meditation ever, that was the most of all the turning points. The second one was that one. A third one was later on, having my son. But that one was such an important one because it led me from being basically an
Mm,
unconscious spiritual seeker. And believe me, we can be unconscious, even though we think we're so conscious.
mm,
But if we're only conscious of one side of the coin and not of the other, we're still unconscious. Because enlightenment is
mhm.
both, right? It's integrating the two of them. I was so not integrating anything. I was just going, oh, this is so
Yeah.
beautiful, so blissful. And it was necessary. It was absolutely life-saving for me to go inside and find myself. Absolutely. No question. And it was really necessary to learn how to express and to be free in the body and to
Mm,
allow the energy through, because there was so
mm,
much blocked off from my upbringing that I didn't even know
mm,
it was healthy to open the throat, and that the throat was the connection between heart and mind, and that needed to be free to feel and to tell the mind what the heart is feeling, and that the heart can feel what the mind is inputting. It needs to be a cylinder.
mm,
If it's an hourglass, if we're an hourglass anywhere, blocked anywhere, then there is a constriction. And what happens in a constriction in the river? If there are tree trunks or rocks in the way, mostly tree trunks, it doesn't flow. It just stops the flow. It gets squeezed. So
absolutely.
in
Yeah.
order for me to feel I can express and be free, I had to learn to open my throat. And believe me, that was so freaking hard. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done, to learn to sing. I would say it took me 8 years to actually learn to sing again. Because remember, I had
Wow.
sung as a child very quite freely for a while, for a few years,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
everything stopped. When I was 18, I
Mm,
actually wanted to become a singer on some level, not really because otherwise it would have happened. So I went to the Hochschule in Munich, the university, and auditioned with the head of the Hochschule back then, and she was a tough cookie. She was this woman who was an opera singer and all these things. And she had me sing a song, and then she interrupted me. I had very good low notes, very good
yeah.
high notes, but not much in the middle. The connection was really rough. So she had me only sing the connecting notes, which was not fair because I didn't have any. And then she slammed her hands on the piano and said, "Stop, stop. You'll never amount to anything. This is way too late."
Oh,
I was 18 years
oh,
old.
oh, that's so heartbreaking.
And can you imagine how many of us are told things like this? Shut up, be quiet, you can't sing, you sing
Yeah.
off key, you can't be in the choir, or whom are you kidding? You can't ever be a singer or a musician or a
Yes.
dancer or this or that. So many of us were shut up who are artists on the inside. And I think it's time. There's so many women artists now. You and I both found each other through Instagram, right? Through
Yeah.
being artists,
Yeah.
contemporary artists. And there are so many of us now sort of coming out of the woodworks like, oh, can I really do this? Yeah, it's okay. I can express myself. Oh, this is actually fun. Oh, there are others like me. Oh, this is not so bad. It's waking up. And so thank you, Saskia, for helping all of us wake up.
And how freeing is it? Oh, bless it. It is so freeing expression, and I think the throat is. I've had a lot of communication problems, and throat chakra sort of blocks through my life as well, and I feel like the throat chakra is connected to the sacral, which is our creative energy, and our will comes through our throat as well. So. When there's blocks around that and we're not free to express ourselves, it's very
Mhm.
difficult, and we repress things. So yeah, clearing all of that up, it is so freeing, and freedom, I think, is one of my highest values, because I think freedom is essential,
Yeah.
because then we're free to be authentic, and we can relax and be ourselves, and how much better is it to live like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 what a
Yes,
journey.
that's
Yeah.
exactly it. We need to be authentic. We need to be allowing
Mm.
ourselves and others to be exactly who we want to be, how we want to be, the decisions we want to make, the feelings we are feeling
Oh,
without interference,
okay.
without being, oh no, you can't feel this, or you should be doing this, and you shouldn't be doing this. And we all have it. But the only way, in my humble opinion, ever so humble, um, is to step into the now, into our now, really bravely. The
Mm,
most courageous
mm.
thing is to actually have the courage to listen within and then to follow that intuition. It's the hardest thing, I think,
Yes.
in all the world. It's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. And we forget, don't we?
We forget. Yeah. And the media is bombarding us with all the shoulds and the don'ts and the do's. And then we're
Mm,
getting,
mm,
all these posts. And then we're having well meaning family members and children and parents and friends and everything. And they're all valid. They're all allowed to their all own authenticity. But that
mm,
does not take away the space we need to carve. And even if it's in 7 seconds, what if in 7 seconds you could
mm.
clear out that gunk and plonk yourself smack in the middle of your own being using tools you already have, your voice, your instrument, your body, your breath, this instrument that is the antenna between heaven and earth. The world's first cosmic instrument is the human body.
Yeah.
Okay, the voice is the most musically finely tuned instrument, and we already have it. Most of us, as I've mentioned before to you, use only 7 notes in our speaking range. Like you hear my voice, da 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 da. If you can use the rest of the notes, the 25 notes every
Mm,
single person has. Oh. And there are enlightened people. If you ever listen to, for example, Marishi's voice or even the Pope. There are people who are
Yeah,
fairly
beautiful.
high
Yeah.
consciousness. Their voice will be so varied because they're expressing themselves authentically with this emotion in
Yeah.
this moment, and that emotion will be different from the emotion they had a minute ago and will have in 1 minute. Their voice
Yeah.
go high and low and very high and very low, not as at a crazy rate, but authentically matching where they're at. If you
Oh.
imagine children 4 or 5, maybe 3, 4, 5 years old on a
Mm.
playground, if you tune into the voices, what do you hear? You hear loud and quiet and high and low and crying and
Mm.
laughing and varied and excited and varied. And then the same children, if you listen to them,
Mm.
the sound
Mm.
coming from the room, the teenager that you don't quite have yet, but are
Yeah.
about to
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
which I've had a long time ago. If you ask them, if you listen to their voice, suddenly you hear, whatever, I don't care, I don't know, dude, please leave me
Mm.
alone. La la la. It's squished in the years between children and child and teenager. Most of
True.
us,
True.
it's squished. Society, teachers, parents, environment, media
Mm.
squishes the pure emotion, the pure authenticity. So my thing is recover that. Create the body that you had, that freedom, that tone, that variation of tone. Every note that you have in your body has a different frequency resonating in a different part of your body. Very high has very different feeling. Enlivening divine, enlivening
Yeah.
intuition. Very low, enlivening connection with the earth. Both are equally important.
Ah.
It's not just middle ground. It's the whole thing that we want
Ah,
to
that makes
explore, which is
sense.
why I wrote my book, which is why I gave that technique to the world.
I'd love you to explain the technique in a moment. I just wanted to touch on the fact that with sound, I mean, with our bodies, that our bodies are self-healing, you know, in themselves. So if we cut ourselves, our body heals, and sound is probably the most high vibrational core of everything. Everything is vibration, and sound is, you know, where everything comes from. So it's probably the most high
Yes,
vibrational aspect of ourselves. So for that to be able to
yes.
heal, it makes sense that that would heal us at the highest rate, you know, in some sense.
I love that.
So, I mean, there's the
Yes, I love
study
that.
of
That's exactly it.
cymatics as well. I don't know if you're aware of cymatics, which is the study of different sound making patterns, and with the vibration of the sound. And because all sound has a certain frequency, and that has shapes, and those geometries are healing. They make imprints and probably move through us. So yeah, I'm really curious to learn and hear more about
Yeah.
your process with 7 seconds to healing. Yeah, with the power of singing. So yeah, if you want to share a bit more about that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened after I learned to sing? It took me, like I said,
Mm,
8 years, and then I was making, giving little concerts here and there, already arias with piano, and then finally I got hired for bigger productions with orchestra, where I stood on the stage singing arias with orchestra, and that was really fun. And people kept coming out of the woodworks wanting to learn to sing. They saw my transformation. They had known me in this town for decades, and they saw what, how I've changed, and suddenly I was a singer, and I was this
mm,
shy person before. And so they brought me their children, grandchildren. They themselves came. It was mostly women, a few men, women in crises. Husband had left, divorce, children out of the house, career change. Hello, Kitty. um, so all this happened out of the blue. I wasn't looking for it, so I started teaching. And since I was
mm,
also an energetic healer, I had, interestingly enough, started to take voice lessons in 1999, the same year
mm,
that I learned tapping and I learned energetic healing from Balwarsh Maharshi, Dr. Balwarsh Maharshi. Um,
mm,
it's an energetic healing. It has 7 levels, and I learned all 7 levels. And you do 100 free sessions first to get very good in chakra work. And then basically you integrate it. And I was always very intuitive. So it was like second nature. It was like bam, 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 bam. People would call me, oh, this person has this and this. Can you tune in? I would literally hang up the phone. I would get random thoughts like, oh my God, what the hell does this have to do with anything? I called them up and I was all sheepish, like, yeah, I don't know what that's supposed to be, but you're supposed to drink 2 cups of celery juice. And I apologized. I said, I have no idea why the person is falling over and why celery juice, you have to drink 2 cups of celery juice. Well, I didn't hear back from the person. 2 weeks later, I saw him at a dance event and I saw him surrounded by several people. And then somebody said, oh, there she is. And I went going, oh, shoot. Now what did I do? And he motioned me close and he said, I went to the Ayurvedic clinic. You know what they told me to drink? Yeah. 2 cups of celery juice. So the intuition was there. So then people kept coming and I did energetic healing sessions. And Saskia, every single person that sat on my couch or chair or floor or wherever I was tuning into them had a blocked throat chakra. It was as if there was an epidemic. And every single time I could feel the information coming through, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. They couldn't very well all follow my path and start singing for 8 years. Nobody had the time for that. It wasn't their dharma. Their dharma was to come to me who has that experience with that story, with that background, and learn as quickly as possible how to get out of the funk they were finding themselves in, whether it was in life, in the relationship, in health, in emotional life, whatever it was. And so very quickly after a few, 200, 300 people, I thought, I can't keep doing this. Every time I taught this was an hour, hour and a half, just on the physical, the vocal, the breath work, that aspect, before I even got into any healing or tapping or what it was. It was necessary they even opened the throat chakra. And so the process got shorter and shorter and shorter and more precise. And I finally realized I need to write this down. And then it was as if Divine was saying, finally, woman, here we go. Okay, this is the first chapter, second chapter. Just keep writing, I had no intention of being an author or being, the representative for this thing. But here it was. It was as if downloads kept coming in. So this is how my book, Seeing Yourself Well in 7 Seconds, came about. I have a copy right here. I'm currently rewriting it. Because I got some good feedback from author Jack Canfield, who said, it could use some more story in it. The content he loved.
Yeah,
He
I saw
loved the
the interview,
content.
yeah.
He said he's practicing it himself. And he said everybody should learn it. It's like brushing teeth. So that's what I'm currently doing. I'm also preparing for a TEDx talk. But that was the transformation. And this is what I'm so passionate about, that now it's available in a very short sequence with all the different qualities that you have to manifest in the body in order to be in the now, but you get to do that in 7 seconds.
I'm not the greatest singer. Is that something that would prevent me from accessing the range of notes, or can I sing myself well with not having a good singing voice?
Yes. If you want to become a singer, if you always wanted to become a singer, and you just thought you suck at singing, this will help you. If you have no intention whatsoever to ever have anything to do with singing, if you've been told you can't sing, you sing off key, you suck at singing, this is also for you. It has nothing to do with singing, and which is why I'm considering changing the title as well, because it actually makes people feel like, oh, maybe I need to sing. This is not for me. When really it's a 7-second reset. It's a technique employing your own voice, employing your own breath, employing this instrument you have. We are built as a cosmic instrument, and cello and violins and guitars are actually built in the image of the body, right? With the 2 areas of resonance.
Oh,
This
yeah. I never
instrument,
thought of that.
when you use that fully, the way we use it when we first come out of the womb, screaming body murder and having huge lung capacity and an open throat, and we have power, personal power. Most of us have it for a few seconds before we get told, shh, oh, quiet, oh, stuff something in their mouth so they don't make noise. And, society will mold us pretty quickly. But if we want the freedom and the flow, the communication that this original body had, we can totally have that back following the sequence of those 7 steps, learning that. And I have a YouTube video, a free YouTube video that people can watch. It's 22 minutes long. Yes, it does take longer to learn the method to sing yourself well in 7 seconds. Of course, just like biking takes a little bit longer than just getting on your bike and going.
Like everything takes a bit of practice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I explain it and you do it with me. And that way, by the end of the 22 minutes, you have a tool, the 7 second reset, that you can use anytime you feel off.
Mm. It sounds like an amazing tool. So, what do you recommend people doing? Watching the video, reading the book, and learning about the process, and that will help clear the throat chakra and like a reset to just come back into the moment and feel centered and anchored in the self. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically it. So if you can read the book explains why we don't sing, why we have to sing, um, and then the 7 qualities that you
Mm,
have to manifest in order for the body, mind, emotions, intellect, ego, cosmic to
mm,
be aligned. And the technique is to manifest those 7 qualities in a very practical way
mm.
in the body in those 7 seconds.
Yeah, beautiful. Really excited to explore and experiment and use this 7 second process. You've got me very curious. I mean, I know you mostly from your art practice, so you also and obviously I can see a beautiful top and painting behind you, and you do such beautiful playful and colorful work. It's so gorgeous. So what led you to painting?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my scarf and my mug.
Oh, gorgeous.
Thank you. I think 2020.
So it was during all the lockdowns.
I think it was just nature again, another way to express. And I took one online class with my good friend Bill Teeple, who is a master teacher, artist, and I've known him for 40 years.
Yeah. So what got you into painting?
And I always loved Matisse, and I always loved color, and I always loved primary colors. And so I just got into
Yeah.
it. I have no explanation. I just felt I needed to express that childlike, positive, playful side. And the way I need to express it, and everybody's different. I know your color
Oh.
system, your color scheme is beautiful, very different from mine. For me, primary colors
Mm.
are very high frequency for me, just like major key music is very high frequency. I cannot listen to minor key. I will go so far down, I will just start crying, and I'm so
Yeah.
emotionally saturated with all the like. If I listen to some
Yeah.
not nice, like country song or
Okay.
a Broadway sort of sappy song,
Mm.
I can't do it. I cannot use earth
Mm.
colored paints. I don't want
Mm.
that energy in me, not because it's not relevant or legit. My friends are beautiful artists. They make realistic paintings that are out of this world beautiful. They use all the ochres and the burnt siennas and the umbers and all the earthy tones. They are wonderful. They're so grounding. For me, I need the upper frequencies, the higher chakras, higher frequencies, more pinks, more reds, more
Yeah.
yellows,
Yeah.
happier colors. I just crave it. It's like food for me. I like sweets and fruits, and we all like different things. Some people like burgers and meat
Yeah.
and stuff, and it's okay for that nervous system. For me, not
Yeah.
so much.
Beautiful. So yeah, it's I mean, you now express yourself in so many ways, and it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, everyone should express themselves in all the ways they feel called to in their heart.
Yeah.
It is just freeing and amazing. And what I mean, what makes you feel most empowered when you're is it when you're creating, or what is it that where you feel most in your power?
Mm. I feel most in my power when I'm truly in the now, doing exactly whatever it is I'm supposed to do.
Hmm.
It's very simple. It's
Oh,
not
nice.
driven by,
Yeah.
you know, a sense of power. The power chakra is a sneaky one. Power chakra
Hmm.
needs to be strengthened, which is one of the things you strengthen in the 7 seconds. For a few seconds, you strengthen that one really
So this
powerfully.
is the solar
Um,
plexus. Are you talking about? The
Yes,
solar plexus,
exactly,
is that what
exactly.
you're talking
It
about?
needs to be strengthened
Yeah,
because
yeah.
many of us, like you and I both in our life, have given up power. We let other
Mm,
people decide
mm,
what's good for us. Or
mm,
some other people
mm,
grab power, our power grabbers, which are actually, it actually comes from insecurity. If you are insecure about your connection with divine,
mm,
you'll grab and control, right? I mean, we've all done it to a lesser or greater
mm,
degree. We've
mm.
all had imbalances in that particular chakra, and it needs to come into balance. And I
Absolutely.
feel the most powerful when I can completely authentically be so grounded and connected to divine at the same time, that I am able to listen to my intuition, and my intuition and the willingness to follow through are completely aligned. That for me is the most thrilling power that I could ever imagine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess the solar plexus is very much related to the power, to our power, and that's sort of where chords stream out to people, and people that are quite empathic and sensitive can have that center more
Yeah,
disrupted,
yeah,
can't they? I guess.
yeah. Yeah, it all depends on our karma, what we've been through in
Yeah,
this life or in
yeah.
past lives. There are people who have such horrendously difficult karma in this
Mm,
life. It's just almost
mm,
unfathomable. And then there's some people who just glide right through. It's just
mm.
a smooth line, ABC. I happen to not know very many of those people. Most everybody has some hiccups. I've had a pretty topsy-turvy life between, you know, the cancer and some other surgeries and divorce and foreclosure
Wow.
and being penniless on food stamps and um, you know just things that you don't usually
Yeah.
expect anybody to just sort of sail through.
Mm,
And I didn't sail through, believe me. It was pretty bumpy for a while, but I always fell back to,
mm,
okay, God, I'm still here, now what? And if you can carve that space in 7 seconds to go, now what, and
mm,
truly mean it, because your
mm.
body is ready, your body is not like afraid or crimped anywhere. You just want to be an antenna. I say the antenna between heaven and
Yeah,
earth.
like a conduit, isn't it?
A conduit, a simple, authentic conduit. It really is that you want to be this wide, huge, infinite. And in that, you want to be open to what divine wants you to do on earth, not just spiritual going up into the clouds, which is wonderful and necessary because many of us are still very much in the material. You want to have both chakras and all the chakras in between.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I
Oh, I
personally
love
have
you,
a
Saskia.
very
Thank you
strong.
so much for having me,
Oh, love
Saskia. I
you
really
too.
appreciate it.
Oh, it's been so lovely. I know also I have a very strong connection to animals, and my cat Maui has decided to come on. Uh, and I wanted to
Hello,
ask you.
Maui.
You've got
Hello.
9. Oh, there she goes. I wanted to ask you. You've got 9 cats, and they are so playful and fun to see on your social media. They're just gorgeous. What's that like, living with nine furry friends, fur babies?
Well, I have a studio where there are no cats allowed, for one. No, I'm partially kidding.
Uh huh.
We had 3 cats, but then 2 died, and we had them for a long time. We had them for 15 years.
Oh.
So that was pretty hard when they died. And
Uh
then
huh.
one January, one bitterly cold, it was minus 19 Fahrenheit. I saw this tiny little orange thing shivering in our garage in a box. And I thought, oh my God. It
Uh
took
huh.
me about 3 months for him to not be feral, to come close enough. I fed him every day, and then he finally came in the house after 3 months of me going out every day. Then we got another
Mm-hmm.
cat, similar to your kitty, a black cat, a female. She was pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and she deposited six
Mm.
tiny, tiny babies into our garage. And so
Oh
again, I
wow.
took the box that she actually jumped up into trash cans and deposited them at the bottom of it. So I carried, after a week of her showing me where she put them, I carried the trash can
Mm.
into the house and up the stairs into a room, and she followed me very closely. And then I closed the door and just let them be there for a while. And then slowly, slowly, that was a year ago. And so now they're all running around. Funny thing is, most of the time we don't even notice we have 9 cats. They're just, you know how cats
Mm-hmm.
are. They're not attention. They don't yap. They don't make you go
Yeah. They.
outside with them, Cassie. You don't have to buy a leash for them. They're just
Yeah.
beings that are so so amazingly grounded and in tune with. They're just amazing. Cats, I think, are amazing.
Yeah. Some people say that cats are fully evolved beings and they have nothing to learn here. So they sort of have this attitude like, you know, they don't need you. You kind of have to earn their respect in a way, don't you, with cats?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep, that
so
pretty much
yeah,
sums it up.
it's been beautiful today. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share today? I'll obviously leave your links and in the details for everyone. Is there anything else you'd like to share today? Yeah, um, it's been really lovely.
Yeah, thank you. No, I just wanted to thank you. I think you're doing a wonderful, wonderful, divinely necessary service, right now with this. I think you listen to your intuition and you follow through rather fearlessly, and you're inviting so many people to speak
Oh,
on something that's so dear to so many of us more and more every day. I think it's absolutely priceless. So thank you for doing this, and yeah, I look forward to more soon.
oh, thank you. No, I really appreciate you being my first guest.